Sinners was released last year and to much deserved critical acclaim. The film takes place in 1932 during the Jim Crow era in that of Mississippi Delta and perfectly blends the troubles of black culture with that of Irish culture and portrays how the escalating social pressures and standards ultimately detract from unity. So without wasting another second, let's get into a summary of the story, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment of what piece of media you would like me to cover next. The story starts out with Sammy, a sharecropper who has aspirations of becoming a musician. However, Sammy's father is rather conservative and doesn't approve of Sammy's endeavor into music. His two cousins, Smoke and Stack, are adamant on making Sammy's dreams become a reality after having made a boatload of money during their 7-year venture. The twins intend on using the money to turn an old lumber mill into a club, this club being the Juke Joint, to which they want Sammy to perform at. The Juke Joint is the most important setting that is used, with it being a place where the black people are able to get together and live, drink, and dance and truly embrace their culture. However, this salvation is never sought, with havoc breaking out. Though that's a story for later. As the boys make their way to their soon-to-be club, they grab some bandwagon booze and stop at a store owned by the Chow family, to which they buy a bulk order of catfish and ask for a sign to be painted for the Juke Joint. As Smoke, Stack, and Sammy prepare for an opening of the Juke Joint, they meet a roster of characters who all get invited, and each offer their own distinct traits and backstory. The first being Delta Slim, a musician who, after being shown a few coins, is more than eager to show up at the club. After Delta having agreed with the twins, Sammy approaches a girl called Pearline, and although married, she entertains Sammy, to which she appears at the Juke Joint later on. Mary is another character who is introduced. She is Stack's ex-lover and is 1/8 black, this being pivotal in regards to her character's interactions with her disregarding the societal norms and instead wanting to have a good time at the Juke Joint in hopes to rekindle her past relationship. Smoke and Stack are on the lookout for a bouncer, so when they come across Cornbread, they pay him a handsome amount to join their crew, to which he accepts. The final person they meet is Annie, the ex-wife of Smoke, who practices hoodoo and is a good cook, a rather odd combo of crafts but warrants her attendance at the club. The introduction to all these characters takes a combined total of 40 minutes, which although rather long, fleshes out the characters and does so in a natural manner, allowing the audience to understand the traits of the cast and their desires and purpose. These desires adding to the overall sadness when the majority of the characters meet their demise, with the film passing over onto the second act with the introduction of Remick, an Irish vampire who seeks refuge at Bert and Jones's house, a household which is undoubtedly racist, with clan robes being noticed instantly by Remick. Remick plays into the whole racist spiel and earns the trust of a couple, to which he turns them into vampires, ready to be used in a crusade against all those that dwell at the Juke Joint. The next scene opens up with a lively crowd enjoying their time at the club. Everyone's dancing, singing, and having a good time. During the party, Sammy plays the song I Lied to You, a marvelous piece that is extenuated through the visuals, with the aspect ratio expanding, and there being musicians from both the past and future dancing among the folk of a club, with the song being so good that it causes the barn to catch on fire. The vampires catch wind of the festivities and are not too far off and decide to pop in for a visit, and despite Remick's claims for unity, the vampires are denied entry at the door, and in line with the classic vampire trope, they are forbade from entering. However, due to the club not faring so well financially, Stack calls upon Mary to see if she can reap gold from the vampires. This doesn't work out so well for her, as the next time she makes an appearance, she is asking for entry at the club, a telltale sign she has been transformed into a vampire, though Cornbread, being none the wiser, grants her entry. Upon entering, both Stack and Mary scurry to someplace quiet, to which Mary bites Stack, transforming him into a vampire. Smoke is rather upset after discovering his brother is now a part of a ghoulish undead. However, he can't grieve for too long, as Mary declares that the vampire is going to kill every last one of them. This panic resulting in majority of the patrons fleeing from the club, a lot of them being turned into vampires, including Cornbread, who was snuck up on while he was taking a pee. How sad. Cornbread makes his way back to the club, yet is consequently shot, causing him to flee, which Stack makes his way free from a musty cupboard, and after being splashed by some pickled garlic, he too flees into the darkness, leaving the remaining patrons at the bar to fend off their fallen allies. The vampires seem to have the upper hand, with a party going on outside with the vampires dancing around to the Rocky Road to Dublin, the best song of the movie and my favourite soundtrack of a prior year. It's intense yet effectively portrays Irish culture, with a group moving in tandem to the catchy tune, and this scene is undoubtedly my favourite. Smoke and the others that dwell inside try to conceive a plan to overcome their vampiric foes, including Bo Chow, the former lover and caring father, now being a pawn for Remick to use. Remick then comes knocking on the door and states that the person which had provided Smoke and Stack the mill was part of a KKK. Even if the vampires hadn't gone to them, they would have been exterminated by the Klansmen, which is such a dreary discovery for a protagonist, which results in Smoke being at his lowest, to which he is offered the opportunity to become a vampire, yet rejects it, knowing the conniving way of the beasts. The tension doesn't stop there. Grace Chow, a newly made widow, is furious and invites the vampires inside, which causes an all-out fight, with with there being several deaths on both sides, including that of Grace, Pearline, Slim, and Annie, characters we were all rooting for. Stack's vampiric form almost had his head on the chopping block. However, it is later revealed that Smoke let him go free as long as he doesn't bother Sammy. Whilst the rundown mill is in a state of havoc, Sammy tries to make a getaway, with Remick wanting to turn him in order to gain his musical playing abilities. Remick is hot on Sammy's tail, and Remick ends up tossing Sammy into the lake, to which Sammy fights back by smashing his guitar right into Remick's face, Silver in the guitar cutting through his head, to which Smoke finishes the job with a stake through Remick's back, the sun sealing the fate of the vampires with a fiery tempest being whipped up. Sammy and Smoke part ways, with Sammy making his way back to his father, and Smoke finishing what he had started. He takes fire at the Klansmen that pull up at the ruined club, and kills every last one, including Hogwash, the person that had provided the old mill, to which Smoke joins his deceased daughter and ex-wife in the afterlife. The concluding scene of the movie is Sammy driving off with his guitar in hopes of making it big. One would assume this was the end of the story, however there is a post-credit scene where Mary and Stack, now free from Remick's control, meet Sammy several years later. Stack offers for him to become a vampire as he notices that Sammy's life is coming to an end. However, Sammy refuses, being content in the way his life turned out, achieving his goal of becoming a musician. Now that the summary has concluded, let us dive deep into what the film does well and not so well. As for feedback for the film, an obvious one is to make use of the nameless clubgoers, as you barely see them in any scenes and are just there as lambs to the slaughter, and although they add to the intensity, they serve no purpose in just being there. My next piece of criticism is a plethora of sex scenes. Not that they were there, but rather, I felt that they were unnecessary. Of course, the scene involving both Stack and Mary is great for showing the two's lack of accordance with social norms, and how a lack of skepticism and pursuit of pleasure can be undoubtedly dangerous, but for the likes of Sammy, these intimate moments don't feel all that deserved, and spending 40 minutes or so on solely building up the characters, this scene adds a whole lot of nothing in my opinion, and could be forgone with no impact. My final piece of criticism is that Mary is boring. I don't care about her in the slightest, and that is due to the supposed appeal of her character. She is 1/8 black, this painting her as a social outcast, and she wants to embrace her black side and spend time with Stack. However, she is expected to conform with white culture, which was the standard of her time, despite the fact that she grew up in a black neighborhood, and this is where the problem lies. This movie seems to have inconsistencies in regards to who is granted access into the community, with the juke joint being symbolic of a black community. Now I know it sounds a little silly, but hear me out. Stack and Smoke deny Remick entry because he is white visually, even though ethnically he wouldn't be deemed as such, especially for those times. However, his visual whiteness may be unsettling for the other bar goers. Though on the other hand, Mary is also white, despite her descending from black heritage, yet she is allowed entrance even though she offers less than Remick, as Remick put forward the proposition that he could share the music that he knew, and although I doubt he would have followed through with it, his perceived value is greater, as the patrons would have assumed that he would play for them, yet he is barred from entering. Moreover, this issue presents itself once more with the Chow family, who are granted access despite being Chinese, and although the argument could be made that they were allowed in because they were known by the twins, this completely falls on its face, as it is assumed that Smoke and Stack don't know all of their patrons, thus it would be foolish to bar Remick for being a stranger when it is likely that not everyone in the establishment knows one another. After all, it is a club. As for what the film does well, it has an amazing soundtrack. The characters for the most part are lovable, and the setting is quite grand. Not only that, but the effects are spot on, with the markings of the vampires resembling that of animals, and the underlying ambience being nailed, with the lighting looking better than perfect. Sinners is one of the best movies to come out of 2025, and is deserving of a 7 out of 10. I'm excited to see how this film will mature, and if it will become a must-watch modern classic, but only time will tell. And with that, I thank you for watching, and wish you all a good night.